In today's show, the Trailblazers have won 5 in a row, 9 of 10. They're 4 games out of 8th with 31 to go. Anything is possible. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, we're doing what we do on this program. We're talking about the Blazers dominating opponent and cruising to an easy win. 5 in a row, 9 of 10. They come back on a second night of a back-to-back. The Pacers also on a second night of a back-to-back, and they beat the snot out of Indiana. 112-89. They hold another opponent under 90 points. They've won 5 in a row for the first time in the Chauncey Billups era. They've won 9 of 10 overall. You can't stop them. There's nothing you can do about it. We're going to get into all of that in today's program. Just another fun game from the Trailblazers. They are playing a brand of basketball that is enjoyable right now. I mean, the first little bit of this game was a bit of a rock fight between two teams that are a little bit tired, physical, chippy, and all of that. But like the Blazers just playing really well. When they pulled away in the fourth quarter, it ended with 3 straight alley-oop dunks. There's some real joy there. They got a really nice night from Scoot Henderson. Anthony Simons was crucial in that fourth quarter to help them pull away, and they just continued to do it in a bunch of different ways. It is not the same dude every night, and the sort of the different ways that they can and do beat teams has really been on display. Let's get into it. We'll do our fastest recap in the West, and yeah, look. I have access to the NBA standings. I know that with 31 games remaining in their schedule, the Blazers are 4 games out of 8th. You're looking at the play-in. I'm talking about hosting a play-in game. 4 games out of 8th. You still be on the road for a play-in, I guess. We'll talk about that in the second segment. And then I kind of want to talk about how much... I mentioned this on yesterday's program as well, is that I'm curious about how much this will inform where the Blazers are. But I want to speak heading into the trade deadline as we get there. I want to talk a little bit more about that because I do think this run plays into where they are. Let's do what we do, though. Fastest recap in the West. Blazers win 112-89. They're up 27-18 after 1. They never trailed in this game. Did not trail in this game. 27-18 after 1. Blazers, of course, went to overtime last night against the Phoenix Suns, but the Indiana Pacers, also on the second night of a back-to-back, played in Salt Lake City. So while the Blazers were wrapping up game in overtime, the Indiana Pacers were flying a fairly long distance from Salt Lake City to Portland. That's not an easy back-to-back. And the Pacers just 18 points in the first quarter, but this was the Blazers never truly pulled away in the first half. Never led by double digits. Up 45-38 after 2, head into halftime with a comfortable 7-point lead. I thought the Blazers held them. They were the better team through the majority of the first half, but if you don't build a big enough lead, it doesn't matter. You don't get to collect your coupons just because you were better in the opening 24 minutes. Really chippy, really physical, kind of ugly opening to the game that culminated with double technical fouls between Andrew Nembhard and DeAndre Ayton, when Nembhard kind of shoved Ayton when he was in the air, or starting to be in the air, and Ayton didn't like it and told him as much, and they had to be separated, and you get your double technicals, and it's just beef. And these two teams were physical. It was kind of an ugly game to begin this. Quite frankly, it was kind of an ugly game. But Blazers head into the fourth quarter up 12. It's 78-66 after 3. Blazers aren't scoring a ton. Pacers aren't scoring at all. This was one of those nights, and I haven't watched a ton of Pacers games all year, but I've watched a handful, 5 or so. Tyrese Halliburton has these games where he doesn't exist. He didn't exist in this game. Over 3, scoreless in 24 minutes. Didn't exist. The best player on the court for the Pacers was almost certainly Andrew Nembhard, although I thought Pascal Siakam was totally fine too, but Nembhard was great. Pacers can't score, though. The engine that made their offense special last year is not in the building, and the Blazers are scoring enough and getting enough to have an edge, a double-digit edge heading into the fourth quarter. But this is a 6-point game at the 8-minute mark. Clock ticking under 8 minutes, 6-point game. Pascal Siakam clangs a 3. Misses it bad. Pacers, though, had the ball down 6 at the 8-minute mark. This stretch from the 8-minute mark to about the 3.5-minute mark. Over the course of 4.5 minutes, the Blazers made this from a close game where the Pacers, despite their warts all game long and just like trying to get the offense going, the Blazers slammed the door shut emphatically behind Anfernee Simons, Jeremy Grant, and Scoot Henderson. Starts with a 9-0 run. And I think the first play of this 9-0 run, the first 2 points of it, really encapsulates kind of where the Blazers were. They are playing hard, and when you play hard and you execute and you get what you want or try to get what you want, good things happen to you. Scoot Henderson gets a screen, makes his way into the paint along the right side, gets a floater up, comes off the rim, kind of hits the back rim and rolls off the front, and Scoot digs out the rebound in the crowd. He digs out the rebound in the crowd, immediately kicks out to Jeremy Grant. Great look at it. A kick-out offensive rebound is always a good look. Scoot Henderson has played a really good floor game so far in this game, from this moment forward, and he's about to have a nice little burst to end the game. But He kicks out Jeremy Grant. Jeremy Grant bricks a wide open look at a 3, and a ball bounds to the corner. Scoot Henderson chases down a ball bouncing out of bounds in the corner. Throws it high up to Jeremy Grant, hoping that the ball can be saved. Scoot is in the deep left-hand corner, and Jeremy Grant is he's kind of like at the hash mark above the 3-point line on the left-hand side, same side of the court. Grant gets up, goes up for it, beats Nembhard to the ball in the air, taps it to a cross court that kind of redirects it with just like one hand smack towards Anfernee Simons. He chases it down on the opposite side, the right side of the court above the hash mark. You got to go. Off an offensive rebound, clock only resets to 14. Now you've thrown it up. You got to go. And Anfernee Simons goes, and he gets himself into the paint past Pascal Siakam, moving to his left, a right-hand floater. Buckets. Blazers up 8. And it would spark a 9-0 run. You get that you get that Anfernee Simons bucket. You get a stop. Scoot Henderson comes down, comes off a screen, gets to his left hand, a smooth lefty finish in traffic. Scoot Henderson, a smooth lefty finish in traffic. We haven't seen a lot of those, but certainly his finishing has improved of late, and that confidence, that move, he drives right? He comes off the screen and gets to his right hand, but he has to go left. Easy, smooth lefty finish as defenders come and challenge him at the rim. Then comes off a screen, they go under. He's on the right-hand side. You're going to go under? I'm comfortable shooting the ball. Splash. Scoot hits a 3. All of a sudden, this is a 7-0 run. The Blazers come down on the next possession, and Anfernee Simons gets into a low mid-range pull-up. 9-zip run. A 6-point game is all of a sudden a 15-point game, and the Blazers weren't done. Jeremy Grant hits 2 3-pointers, including one of them where he got fouled. Turns out it was a 4-pointer, and then the Blazers cap the run as the Pacers are pressing, and Anfernee Simons drops his defender in the backcourt, and the Blazers are a pretty common press team. They pressed a ton in the playoffs last year, and they've kept it up this season as well. And Simons drops his man in the backcourt, and because he does, he gets a head start, and because he gets a head start, and he's all of a sudden pushing the pace, defender has to step up, and as soon as Ant sees that defender step up, he just finds Toumani Camara lurking on the baseline for a dunk, and all of a sudden, the Blazers have capped a 21-7 run, 19-5, but it turns out 21-7 at the end, by that really ended this thing. From a 6-point game to a 20-point game with 3.5 minutes left, and the Pacers wave the white flag. Yet another game the Blazers won in 45 minutes that the other team had to quit. It's what they've been doing. Their margin of victory heading into that Suns game was over 15 points per game. Obviously, the Suns' overtime game is going to pull that back down, but this is another easy win. The Blazers cruise 112-89. That's your fastest recap in the West. Obviously, I took my sweet time there with that crucial game-changing run. Ant gets going. During that stretch, Anfernee Simons had 7 points and 3 assists. Jeremy Grant hit 2 threes. Scoot Henderson had 5 points, 2 offensive rebounds, and those crucial 2 offensive rebounds to kind of spark the run early when it was a 6-point game. The ball, Jeremy Grant bounces his long 3 out of bounds, and Scoot doesn't save it. Pacers get the ball back again, down 6, with another chance to make it close, right? But instead, you chase it down, you push it to 8, you get a stop, you hit another, you score again, all of a sudden you're back to 10, and you're in control. And the Blazers just, that response and that spark and that stretch was incredibly fun. Pacers empty their bench, and just for good measure, Scoot Henderson throws 2 lobs coming out of that timeout. Blazers don't empty their bench. The Pacers do. They put on they put in their Enrique Freemans and John Furphy's, and Scoot Henderson finds a lob to Rob Williams and another lob to Tumani. The Scoot show is upon us, as he would tell Brooke Olzendam in the post-game interview that I didn't see till later, but it was quite a moment. And the Blazers cruise, and it's fun, and they're rolling, and what a freaking game. I thought Anfernee Simons was really good when they needed him in this game. He finishes with 22 and 7 dimes, 17 from Scoot off the bench. Shaedon Sharpe had 17. Not a super efficient shooting night from Shaedon, but it was good to see him score some points. Jeremy Grant has 20. Tumani had 13, but like another one of those games where Tumani just played great, and you look at his box score, and he's like, he was better than 13 and 7. He finished 13-7, a steal and a block in his 35 minutes. DeAndre in foul trouble early, 4 fouls early, and just like, finished with a quiet night, 8 and 9 because of it. Denny Avdia, not a good Denny night. 6 points on 2 of 9 shooting, 1 of 6 from 3. But that speaks to what this team is right now. The night before against Phoenix, Denny carried the offense early and was freaking great. And DA had 25 and 20. Ayton had 25 and 20. Neither of those two gentlemen had a particularly good game on the following evening on Tuesday. Monday night, those were the guys who brought it home. On Tuesday, neither of them have it, right? Like, it's not like an outstanding or even notable game from either of them. It doesn't matter because you get scoring off the bench from Scoot and Shaedon Sharpe. You get a really nice Anfernee Simons, particularly that in that fourth quarter, to kind of slam the door shut. And Jeremy Grant, he still can't make twos, 3 of 8 inside the arc, but hits his threes and hit 2 crucial ones during that fourth quarter stretch. And they seal the game, and the Pacers just could not score, and they turned the ball over 19 times. That led to 28 Blazer points. Some big runouts. DeAndre Ayton had a run-out dunk. Shaedon Sharpe had a run-out dunk. The defense was humming. The offense has different ways to beat you, and they just keep winning. The first 5-game winning streak of the Chauncey Billups era that began in the 21-22 season. It is now January of 2025. They've won 5 in a row. They've won 9 of 10. And yes, folks, they're 4 games out of 8th. I've avoided mentioning the postseason. I've avoided mentioning the play-in. But the Blazers are playing so well that I try to be, I'm an emotional being, I'm an emotional person, but I try to aim for rationality. The Blazers are playing so well that I'm throwing rationality out the window. Let's talk about the freaking postseason in the second segment. Join me there, won't ya? First, though, let me tell you about Gametime, the place to buy tickets to whatever live events you want to go to, concerts, a comedy show, a sporting event. Find the right ticket at the right place, at the right price, and avoid the headaches. With Gametime Picks, it's never been easier. Let me tell you how it works. With Gametime Picks, the app does all the hard work for you. It curates the best deals, so you don't have to waste your time searching through endless ticket listings. Gametime Picks is super useful because the app is super easy to use, and plus, they just show you good deals right away. They got the super deals for prime seats with great values. Plus, they got an in-seat view. So you're like, hey, what's this going to look like when I go see the Blazers play the Kings on Thursday? Well, you can click right there in the app and see a panoramic 360 view even before you hit buy. Plus, you can toggle on all-in pricing, so there's no surprise fees at checkout. And Gametime's got you covered with the lowest price guarantee. If you find a better deal somewhere else, they'll refund 110% of the difference. Plus, your tickets are guaranteed to be delivered on time with easy cancellation options if something comes up. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download that Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Use the redemption code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets. Lowest prices. Guaranteed. All right. We're going to put rationality in the back seat. We're going to let our rational brains have a break. We're going to put all your rational thoughts in the back seat because listen, I think one of the fun parts about being a fan is being irrational, right? There's some sort of irrational negativity stuff that drives me crazy with fandom, like enjoy something, weirdos. But like when a team is rolling like the Blazers are rolling, it's kind of impossible. Like if this is something you enjoy, right? It's kind of impossible to turn off the part of your brain that's like, well, maybe they're just never going to lose. maybe they're never going to lose. Like no team wins 90% of their games. The Blazers have won 9 of 10, 5 in a row, right? No team, even the best team in NBA history, is not ripping off. Is not the best teams in the league are not ripping off 90% of their wins. You know, they're winning in the high 70s, right? So like obviously they're going to at some point come back down a little bit, but I do think they are playing well. Whether this is like proof of concept is like a conversation for another day. We're keeping rationality out of there. Whether this is like, whether this is some sort of obvious thing that is like, can be graphed out into the future is for another day. What I'm going to do is with rationality in the backseat, I'm just going to look at the NBA standings. I'm going to look at them with you because why wouldn't you dare to dream? Look, if you were daring to dream of the Blazers finishing with one of the worst records in the league and having a whole bunch of ping pong balls fall their way when it mattered, that dream's gone. They've won too many games. They haven't won too many games to like be a lottery team. In fact, they're almost certainly going to end up there, right? Oops, rationality just crept in for a second. They're likely they have a challenge ahead of them to avoid the lottery altogether. But the best odds are not there. Also, like, miss me with the Hawks got the number 1 overall pick by making the play-in last year. The math doesn't change. The lottery numbers are like your lottery position is still it's still a probability. The probability doesn't change just because there was those are single event probabilities. But the chances that they're the top of the lottery seems pretty slim now. So let's look the other way because it's fun to look the other way. And if you are someone who is like deeply concerned about them winning, maybe this isn't the next 4 minutes for you, dear friend. The Blazers are in, we'll call it 13th place. The top 10 teams, the top 6 teams make the playoffs. Then there's the play-in round for teams 7 through 10. So you got to finish in that 7 through 10 range to make the play-in. You're not even in the playoffs then, but you have an opportunity to get into the 8-team bracket. The Blazers sit in 13th, behind San Antonio and Dallas, who are 11 and 12. Dallas, they're probably worse because they don't have Luka Doncic, but like Anthony Davis is going to help them be competitive. They're not going to go anywhere. The San Antonio Spurs added De'Aaron Fox. They're likely to be like very obviously better, right? Just because of a talent upgrade. The teams in 9 and 10, well, the Golden State Warriors are rumored to maybe be adding Kevin Durant. That would be weird. Getting back together with your ex is always a strange decision. Phoenix obviously seems like they would be taking a step back if they got there. Sacramento is worse. They got rid of De'Aaron Fox and added Zach LaVine. They're not awful, but they're like, LaVine, DeRozan, and Sabonis is like competitive enough to win any game a lot of nights, but obviously has like a pretty low ceiling, in my personal opinion. The Blazers are a game back of San Antonio. They're 4 games back of Dallas, 4 games back of Golden State, 4 games back of Phoenix, 4 games back of Sacramento. Yes, the Blazers right now, with 31 games remaining in their season, are 4 games out of 8th. Now, there's a lot of teams in the way, right? That's why I mentioned all those teams in the way. There's a lot of teams in the way to get to 8th. 10th would get you in the play-in. Setting aside whether I personally believe they should try for that, I have dismissed this outright as not a possibility over the last little bit, right? Even when the Blazers were winning, when they won, when they won 4 in a row, it's like, listen, they're 6.5 games out of the play-in. It's not going to happen. When they had won 8 of 9 the other night on this very program, when I recorded this 24 hours ago, I didn't mention the play-in because that to me, that's like too pie in the sky, right? But they just keep winning. They're fun. It seems like they can do it in enough different ways, and the defensive improvement seems real enough that they're going to be competitive unless they really make an effort to not be that, right? I think whether they should gun for the play-in is a question for another day. And when Chauncey Billups was asked about it after the game, he said, like, I just try to survive. I just try to, we get through each and every day, right? Which actually is a noble, in the current state of the world, a very noble approach to survival. Just get to every day, try to get to the next one, and do your best. But Anfernee Simons, when asked about it, says, I look at the standings all the time. Of course, I'm looking at the standings. It's not outside the realm. I'm gonna bring rationality from the back. Come. You want to come up from the back seat and come sit next to me. You can ride shotgun. I think it's still pretty unlikely, right? Because I think they're going to come back to earth a little bit. I don't think they're going to win forever. But I think right now, the way they are playing, this is the best they've been all year. The coach coaches to win. They play this freaking playoff lineup. They play, on the second night of back-to-back, they stretched the lineup out a little bit more, and there was some garbage time. But they played a real 8-man rotation. You got 24 minutes from Rob Williams. Chris Murray played 10 minutes, but he some of that was at the end of the game. They played an 8+ rotation as opposed to just straight up 8s. And it's more of like an 8.5 tonight. But they're keeping it tight. They're playing aggressive and playing to win. And the guys who do play are, generally speaking, relatively positively impactful, right? They're maybe not everyone every night is why I'm hedging there, but for the most part, the guys who play are good. Help them win. They've really narrowed who gets to contribute, and because they've really narrowed who gets to contribute, they mostly get good nights from guys. And when guys have it rolling, Chauncey Billups plays them 38 freaking minutes and pinches everybody else. They try to win. They're going for it. And if they do this and they continue this forward, 4 games in 31 to make up 4 games over the course of 31 games is possible. It's challenging. And there's teams in their way. And I think the number of teams in their way is the challenge. And some of those teams, particularly San Antonio, got better. And I don't think Dallas got materially worse in the sort of win regular season games contest. Although I do think they got worse and older, which is pretty weird. So if you are dreaming of it, I am typically someone who poo-poos this type of stuff. But because we're letting rationality and kind of take a back seat, I want to say this. If this is something that would bring you joy, the Blazers miraculously making a play-in game, that's fine to root for it, because what we need in this world is to hold on to our joy. Go do it. If that's going to make you, if you find that to be this absolutely pleasing outcome, go for it. And if you are my friend who I bet cash money that the Blazers would not make the playoffs. Yes, me, the person talking to this microphone, true hater, bet against the Blazers making the playoffs with one of my friends. I'll pay up if they lose, but I'm holding out strong, baby. Let's talk about the trade deadline in the third segment, because if they are good, capital G, lowercase g, somewhere in the middle, how does that change how they approach it? Let's talk about that to close the show. Join me in the third segment, won't ya? First, though, let me tell you that today's show is brought to you by BetterHelp. What are your relationship green flags? You might often hear about red flags, the things you should avoid, but what if we focused more on identifying the positive signs, those green flags? If you're not sure what they look like, therapy can help you identify them, actively practice them, and even embody that green flag energy yourself. Whether you're dating, married, building a friendship, or you're just working on your relationship with your own self, therapy can help you form relationships that love you back. And there's nothing more important than loving yourself back. If you can't love yourself, how the heck are you going to love somebody else? As the great philosopher once said, therapy helps you develop healthy boundaries and improves your communication skills. It empowers you to set clear expectations and express your needs in relationships. Therapy provides tools for managing conflict in ways that strengthen your connections rather than break them down, and BetterHelp makes it easy by offering online therapy. With over 30,000 licensed therapists to choose from, and if you need to switch therapists at any time, you can do so at no extra cost. Discover your relationship green flags with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond, and you are still listening to Locked On Blazers. I mentioned this in yesterday's program that I was fascinated to see how the Blazers are going to approach this deadline, right? Whether they'll, whether they take this stretch as proof of concept. I want to stretch this a little bit further now. I wonder if there is a world in which the Blazers do things that they have done in the past, which defy all of my logic and preferences. Importantly, it's important to note, you probably know this, but it's important to note, my logic and my preferences, they don't matter at all. that doesn't matter at all. I am merely a person who thinks about the team a lot and has access to a microphone and the internet. But I'm wondering this. Do the Blazers, seeing that they have won 9 of 10, that they have won 5 in a row, that they are a plucky team with an outside puncher's chance of playing a postseason game or games, do they turn into buyers? Do they try to upgrade the roster? And why I say that is heading into last year's draft, they sent away, multiple draft picks, 2 first-round picks in exchange for Deni Avdija, who is a freaking really useful role player that helps teams get better. That's what Deni's been. I mean, I think he's been, probably on the whole, the Blazers' best player, but in the grand scheme of the NBA, he's like a really high-level role player. And he's been that for the Blazers, and he plays different roles, whether you score, defend, pass, or just push the transition crazy he does it, right? And I, at the time, and I still kind of think this now, I find the trade to be puzzling and bizarre. Why would the team in the Blazers' position trade multiple first-round picks in a couple seconds in order to acquire a guy of Deni's ilk? Why are they the team making that trade? But Deni has undeniably helped. They wouldn't be where they are without Deni. In fact, when Deni got hurt, he missed 3 games, they got freaking thrashed. They were awful during that stretch. And then Deni gets healthy, and now they've ripped off 9 of 10, and they look like a team that could mess around and make the postseason. So, shoot, I was wrong then. And, maybe wrong is maybe a bigger picture thing. But, my logic why I wasn't into it doesn't maybe square with the Blazers' logic. Why they wanted to add Deni Avdija is because he's a good basketball player, and he's certainly helped them win basketball games. So I wonder, a little bit heading into this deadline, is that a move they're after? Now, I think there's enough reporting out there to suggest that the fact that there's no fire sale coming from the Blazers. Matisse Thybulle's been hurt all year. DeAndre Ayton does not have a big juicy market, and he's also been pretty good for the Blazers recently. But that I don't personally think that should inform the Blazers. If you get a good deal, you should trade anyone. That's how it should work. I don't think there's a big market for Jeremy Grant, although he's been, he has some value, but just like the way he's played this season, particularly on offense, and the money he's owed probably limits some of his interest. Anthony Simons, I think in general, players of not quite point guards who don't defend are not highly coveted in the NBA right now. Although I think Ant has been after a rough start has been pretty good of late. He's certainly good on Tuesday evening against the Pacers, and so that brings us to are they going to trade Rob Williams? Well, John Hollinger said recently on a Hollinger and Dunked On podcast that he has heard that the Blazers are likely to hold on to Hollinger. There's been some reporting locally that the Blazers' asking price for John Hollinger, the Blazers' asking price for Rob Williams remains pretty friggin' high. I would say the combination of those two things are probably related. If the Blazers are likely to hold on to him, it's they're asking for the moon's not available, therefore they're not interested in trading him. One of the ways that you hold on to a guy is you refuse to deal with the market that he would be tradable in, right? If you're not interested in the market, you're not trading him, and I think that's kind of what the sort of piecing together some various reporting suggest about Rob. So the Blazers are unlikely to be a fire sale team, right? Do they go the other way? That would be, again, to me, bizarre. But the last time they did something like that, it was, to me, pretty bizarre, and it remains pretty strange. But I thought this team would suck. Shoot. In December, I thought this team did suck. I don't know if... Again, they are factually 22-29 after winning 9 of 10, right? It is just this stretch over the last 2.5, closing in on 3 weeks since about January 19th. They've been awesome. They've just played great and played fun, and it's enjoyable basketball. And I'm not taking away from that stretch, but prior, call me January 15th, and I was probably hating. You can go check the tapes. I was probably hating. But I wonder if this stretch, beyond whether it informs them as proof of concept and whether they hold on to guys. I'm talking, I've now gone to the other side of the waterfall. What if the Blazers try to straight up upgrade the roster in the immediate term? I don't know exactly how they would do that, but they have a bunch of tradable second-round picks, and they've got some minimum guys on the roster, and perhaps you make the right deals with, the very back end of the roster and teams that are trying to shed salary, and you say, this dude will help us. We only play 8 guys. We could probably add a 9th. What if they go that route? The Blazers have played so well and defied my expectations so heavily over the last 2.5 weeks that I am talking about the postseason and whether they make an additive trade in order to get better in the near term. Whether those things are the right idea is not a conversation I'm having right now. And let me be totally frank. I don't think they should do that. I don't think they should attempt to make the plan, and I don't think they should add players. But again, my personal opinion is neither coveted nor important, in the grand scheme of the Blazers making decisions. And probably maybe shouldn't be for you either, dear listener. You should just listen and say, I disagree with this doofus, because what I'm trying to do is think about this team. And when I think about this team, it's does this stretch really change a lot? Part of me says it shouldn't, but there is another part of me, and that's perhaps the part of me that hosted this entire podcast, that said, shoot, it might. Shoot, it might. I'm fascinated to see where this lands. Join me tomorrow's show. We'll wrap up everything you need to know. You're listening to Wednesday, February 5th show. I appreciate you listening. I will record this on Wednesday evening for Thursday in your feeds ahead of the trade deadline. Everything you need to know and everything we do know about the Blazers heading into the trade deadline, obviously touching on any big things that happen across the league and their impacts in Portland. Join me for that one, 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, also on YouTube. Then the Blazers will, the trade deadline will pass Thursday. The Blazers play that night against the Sacramento Kings, and I'll have you covered for that one. 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, also on YouTube. I appreciate you listening. I will talk to you soon.